Hello, inventors. How are you doing? Today, I have a special question for you. How much worth your time? Look, what I'm doing right now is turning on all the garage, turning on the printers, turning on the lights, and beyond that, I have to spend more time on other tasks like editing the videos, preparing the tests, running the tests, analyzing, and then preparing the scripts for a video that I'm recording for you. All this time does not appears when you watch a video produced by me on this channel, because this is part of the process of producing content here for the channel. And on the 3D printing job is the same. We have a lot of things we have to do beyond the fact that you just send a model to print on a 3D printer. And this is what I want to talk to you today when talking to you about my experience with the 3D printer from Bambu Lab. So today I want to talk to you about the BambuLab X1 Carbon. So be prepared for some revelations that I never saw anyone talking about this on the internet. So keep tuning into this video because I have a lot of things to talk about X1 Carbon and how to save your time and avoid losing your money, because time is money, right? So stay tuned and let's invent. Before we start talking about the X1 Carbon, I want to be clear about my current situation with this printer. This printer is not mine. I didn't pay for it, but I will have to send it back to my partner that just let me test this printer for 3 months and record this video giving my opinion about the benefits or the waste of time with this printer. So usually when we buy a product that costs a lot of money, we used to be susceptible for some kind of effect, psychological effect, like the Apple effect, I have to say. That is, when you buy a very expensive product, you tend to think that that product worth the money you spend on that, because you don't want to make your brain cheat you with things like, oh, you spend so much money, so now this product must worth the investment you made on this, because otherwise you will consider yourself like a dumb. Okay, so don't I'm not suffering of Apple effect with this, because this is not mine and this will not stay with me, and I've not been paid to say good things about this printer. So let's go straight to the subject of this video. So let's talk about the time wasting. So one of the most necessary tasks you have when you are working with 3D printing is to calibrate the filaments. So calibrating filaments is necessary because we have a lot of different brands on the market and different filament types that demand different behavior from the printer, from the tool you are using to print your models, like this one. This is a common test for 3D printing professionals, and it's very important to consider that if you does not have a 3D printer yet. So every time you change the brand or change the type of the filament you are printing, you must consider that you will have to calibrate, at least on the most models and brands of 3D printers on the market. Basically, I made some kind of benchmarks here that I want to tell you, okay? I've already made a video here talking about the fine-tuning process, where you take a new filament and then you run some calibrations to make sure that you are basically extracting the most important characteristics from that filament, like quality, printing speeds, and things like that. And considering that, you probably will have to spend some time calibrating that. So passing through the step-by-step of fine-tuning calibration, you will probably spend 1 hour and 20 minutes to run the temperature calibration. So it's basically 1 hour to print the tower, the temperature tower, and 20 minutes between cleaning the bed, preparing the printer, and then analyzing the results and inputting the parameters, the results you had into the software. Then you have more 1 hour and 20 minutes to run the flux calibration. That includes 2 steps of printing that small plates where you see and analyze how much filament flow you must send to have a good printing. So then you have about 40 minutes to calibrate the advanced pressure. That it's a very, very important features on modern 3D printers. Then you have 1 hour to calibrate the retraction, just in case you need that, because most of times the retraction will basically be calibrated when you are calibrating the flux, but some kind of filaments will need that calibration step. And then you have 1 hour and 20 minutes to calibrate the max flow, okay? So considering those 5 steps of filament fine-tuning calibration, you will spend about 5 hours and 40 minutes to have one specific type from one specific brands of filament calibrated to the most of printers you can find on the market, except for the X1 Carbon. Remember when I asked you at the beginning of this video about how much worth your time? So right now it's the time to start making some calculations. So how much worth 1 hour of your time, 1 hour of your dedication in your specialty, okay? Doesn't matter if you are a 3D printing professional or if you are a programmer or if you are a modeler, doesn't matter. I just need you to know how much worth 1 hour of your time, and then you multiply by this 5 hours and 40 minutes that you will spend calibrating your 3D printer. So, okay, some people will tell me right now that, okay, Wesley, but when you send a temperature tower calibration, for example, you will not be stopped watching your printer to finish that job. Kind of. Think about this. There are a lot of printers on the market that doesn't offer a good reliability. There are a lot of 3D printers on the market that doesn't have a good reliability, okay? So this is the point. In the most of cases, you can send the print and then trust the printer that the printer will finish the job without you having to stay there babysitting your 3D printer. But this is not the case for the most brands on the market. You must keep watching that at least at each 5 minutes and 10 minutes to make sure that the test or the print is going well. And then if you have any problem, you must stop and then clean up everything and then start over. So this is the point where I want to get when I'm talking about the X1 Carbon, that it's a really, really reliable 3D printer. And even not having to babysitting your 3D printer, you must stop what you are doing to take the model and analyze and then input that calibration into the software. And you will have to do that again and again, sometimes twice the same test. Sometimes it works on the first one, but you will have this time to reserve when you are calibrating the printer to have the best result you can have with that 3D printer. Another thing is about the time to change filament. Basically, in average, you will spend between 3 and 5 minutes to change the filament from your 3D printer. And I must be very clear about what you are watching on the video right now. I'm not comparing this brand with BambuLab. I'm actually comparing BambuLab with all other brands you find on the market, because basically, if you don't have an AMS, if you don't have the technology that BambuLab developed and put into this printer, you will have the same waste of time changing the filament. And this is a rule. This is basically a market standard for 3D printers, even considering the modern printers that are way better than the old printers when I started printing 10 years ago. Even considering the modern printers, you will spend between 3 and 5 minutes changing the filaments on your 3D printer. And if you use your 3D printer on the right way, you will probably have to do this at least 2 times a day. Because at the morning, you will have to take your filaments, take off the bag, put on the printer, remove the printer lead, warm up your hot end, put the filament, lock the extruder, send the first extruding process, then clean up the nose, and then your printer will be ready to print, of course. And you will have to do that again at the end of the day, because leaving the filament inside the printer can lead to a lot of different problems, like breaking the filaments inside the PTFE tube because of the temperature and humidity and things like that. Or you can have problems with the nose clogging and a lot of different problems. So at the end of the day, you should remove the filament, store that inside a bag with silica gel to make sure it's dried and protected from dust. And then on the next day, you must do that again. And that can be worse if you change the filament during the day. Like, oh, now I need to print something on Pat G, and then now I have to print that on PLA or ABS or any other material. Then every time you change your filament, you will spend this 3 to 5 minutes, considering that everything goes okay, considering that you have no other problem during this filament changing. And I'm not even talking about the multicolor printing, okay? So taking the model like this one, you have an average of more than 800 color changing on this model. That took about 20 hours to be printed. So I'm talking about changing the filaments to print one color model. So when you have to change the color, I honestly don't recommend you to use a printer that doesn't have the AMS or any other technology like this, because it's kind of a pain in that place, okay? So let's talk about the X1 Carbon now. So now you have parameters to compare the time wasting when you change filament, calibrate filaments, and then I have to say that during the 3 months of tests with the X1 Carbon, I can say that 95% of the filaments I've put on this printer gave me a print with 99% of quality. And this is because the X1 Carbon has a lot of different kind of technologies to improve the quality and the compatibility with different filaments, including the lighter, including the auto tests that BambuLab developed and put inside this printer. And considering that time saving of almost 6 hours of work for each kind of filament I would love to use on this printer, I could save this almost 6 hours per filament I've tested here. So this is an amazing time saving when considering how much worth your time, because I consider my time worth like a gold, because the time is the only thing I never would be able to buy back, even considering how much money you are making with 3D printer or any other job you do, because the time is the only thing you can't buy back and you can't recover if you waste with useless tasks. So beyond that, changing the filaments. To change a filament on the X1 Carbon using the AMS will cost you only 30 seconds. 30 seconds to remove the filament from AMS, put another one and put the filament inside the tractor, and then it's ready to go, because the printer will be responsible for pushing the filament into the PTFE, extruding, cleaning up the nose, and be ready to print. So beyond that, when you have to change the filament, you have by default 4 different filaments inside the AMS that you can just choose the filament you want to use on that print at the moment you are slicing, and then send to the printer. And then if the printer needs to change the filament, the printer will do that without you having to be even near the printer when the printer is doing that part of the job for you. And I've run those tests using a lot of different kind of filaments, and I made a list here to do not forget anyone. So I've printed PLA, silk PLA, velvet, PETG, ABS, HIPS, carbon fiber, wood filaments. All those filaments just came into the printer and then print, and I had a good results after all, including the BambuLab carbon fiber that I consider one of the best carbon fibers filament I ever tested. And on this model, I've used the support filament from BambuLab that came with the printer. And I honestly have to say that I love this model print. Look at this. The marks of support are perfect. Basically, you can remove the support as is a sticker on the 3D printed model. It's amazing. And I would love to have those filaments to buy here on Brazil, but unfortunately, BambuLab doesn't have this to sell here. But I had this sample that came with the printer, and I'm very, very satisfied with this, the quality of this filament. But I've tested the carbon fiber filament from Creality on the BambuLab X1 Carbon, and I had a very, very similar results with a perfect quality of printing, and I also love these results. And of course, I've already showed you the multicolor filament I've tested here. I show you on other videos here on the channel. But you can print patchy, you can print PLA stone like this one. You can print any kind of model, even not being multicolor filaments, and you can save your time printing models with support, or even without any kind of support, but not having to go to the printer and change the filament, because you already have at least 4 filaments inside the AMS all the time. And then you can spend that capacity to up to 4 different AMS plugged into the same printer. Then you can have up to 16 different colors and types of filaments. And the most impressive characteristic of this printer is that you can put filaments that are not from bamboo and calibrate each one of them individually, and then the printer will know what is the best configuration for each filament when the printer is working. That enables you to print using 4 different brands of the filament, like PLA, for example, and having the good quality with each one of those brands. Of course, it's not recommended to try to print a multicolor model using different types of filaments, especially because of the temperature difference between the filaments you are using. So if you want to print multicolor models, use the same filament for each color. So print everything on ABS or everything on PLA will give you a better results when you are printing multicolor models. The main point here is that you don't have to have a multicolor printer only to print multicolor models. So you can use it for functional models and save time in the same way, or even printing a functional multicolor model to have a better result, a better aesthetic result. So multicolor printers are not only for multicolor models. They can save your time and deliver you great quality when you are printing. But the X1 Carbon, it's not perfect. There is no perfect product on the market. And there are some considerations to make about this printer, and I've made a list that I would love to tell you. So let's start with this list. So the first one is that the Bambu Studio, the software, the default software to use with Bambu printers, does not cover the most calibration tests. So the Bambu Studio basically has only 2 calibrations that the printer will run automatically. And just in case you are using a very, very peculiar filament, then you have to run manual calibrations, manual temperature towers, flow tests, and things like that. You will probably have to use Orca Slicer. But this is not a problem because Orca Slicer is based on BambuLab. The interface is basically the same. And inside the Orca Slicer, you have all profiles for all the BambuLab printers. And then the only thing you have to do is selecting the printer and then run the tests to calibrate, and then back to the Bambu Studio, insert the results of that calibration, and voila, you were ready to go. The next one is the first layer is not always perfect. So no, you don't have a perfect printer on the market, and you can have this kind of results when using your X1 Carbon, as you can have this kind of results using your X1 Carbon or any other BambuLab printers. But what compensates that is when you calibrate the filament and you have one good result, you have an excellent repeatability feature from this printer. So what is repeatability? It's when you calibrate, then you can run 1, 2, 3, 4, as much as tests you want to run, and then you will have the same results on every single print you send to the printer, and you have a first layer very good on every print you send to this printer. So one time you have calibrated that, okay, you can go and repeat and repeat and repeat and obtain the same results. Okay, the counterpoint with the filament management, the automatic management of filaments, is that this printer spend a considerable amount of material when extruding and cleaning up the nose, and especially when it's changing colors a lot of times in one print. And this is a kind of polemic subject, because when you change the filament in your printer, even not being a BambuLab printer, you will spend filaments. Basically, you will spend the same amount of filaments. So if you don't like to spend filaments, don't print multicolor models. It's simple like that. So if you want to print multicolor models, you must consider that you will have a lot of filaments wasted during the process. So the graphic interface is not the best one. It's not practical for the daily basis. Like on the screen of the X1 Carbon, you have basically a big screen, an awesome screen, but half of the home screen, it's basically occupied by a photo from the same printer you were seeing in your front. So BambuLab could use that half screen to put basically commands like changing the bed level or changing the head position or calling, extruding, and something like that, that it would be very, very useful on a daily basis, more than watching the same photo of the printer. So filament tags. BambuLab has a very, very good feature that it's recognizing the filament color and brand automatically when you put that inside the AMS. Okay, not the brand, only the color, because the tags only works when you are using original filaments from BambuLab. Would be very, very good if BambuLab licensing third-party filament producers to use the tags. That could make BambuLab make some money licensing that, and that would make the life of the users easier, because you can change the filament without having to select manually the type and the color of the filament every time you change. So even not being a big wasting of time doing that small configuration on the screen, because it's very quick to do that, that would make our lives easier. So the other things is about the building plate. So if you buy a parallel building plate that doesn't have the QR code here, every time you send a print, you must wait about 5 minutes to click on resume, because the printer will stop printing and then will say, oh, I cannot recognize the building plate. So make sure the building plate is the right one you select on the slicer. And then you must click on the resume to keep printing. So this is a pain in that place again, but you can buy parallel plates with the QR code, so avoid to buy this kind of building plate, okay? Another big problem is that not all the brands will fit inside the AMS, not all the filament brands. So there are some brands on the market that has a bigger or larger filament spools that will not fit inside the AMS, including the cardboard filament spools. So on these cases, you can print a spool that came inside the memory of X1 Carbon, and then you can transfer the filament into those new spools, or you can just transfer that manually, rolling the spool to pull the filament inside. So talking about an engineer, this is not a kind of problem that can be solved easier, because this is about the size of the AMS. So just consider that you will must you pay attention to the spool size and the work you can spend transferring the filament to the compatible spool to use on the AMS. But the most brands on the market are changing the spool size to adapt their filament spools to this kind of device, because a lot of other brands have been trying to create the AMS for their brands and trying to follow the BambuLab success on the market. But honestly, I don't believe they will be able to do something so good like this, at least on the next few years. And my last consideration, it's about the abrasive materials, like wood materials, like carbon fiber, that the BambuLab recommend on their manuals to do not use that on the long term with so often inside the AMS. This is why BambuLab allows you to use an external filament here and put the filament directly into the PTFE tube without passing through the plastic materials you have on the AMS. I've printed carbon fiber materials and wood materials on this printer, and then after printing, I made a very, very detailed analysis on the plastic components, and I didn't notice any kind of corrosion on those components, what shows me that the materials used to build the AMS, even being plastic components, are very, very good plastic materials. So, of course, if you will only print carbon fiber, only print PLA wood, you will probably degrade the material faster than another person using the AMS only to print PLA, normal PLA, and normal ABS, or any other material that doesn't have any kind of abrasive additives, okay? So, but you must consider that if you are printing carbon fiber materials, you will probably charge a higher price of the final product when printing with this kind of material, and then you can include the cost of maintenance of this equipment inside the price of your final product. So you must consider that. But especially if you print models like this one, where you need to use supports, using the AMS, it's like a magical solution, because you can print, remove the support, and then you have a perfect printed model like this one. and then you can send to your customer, and your customer will be way more satisfied having this kind of finishing on your product. So just consider that you can have to change some plastic parts over the time if you are printing only abrasive materials with the X1 Carbon and the AMS. But I know that are people watching this video and thinking that, oh, this is a very, very expensive printer. So even having all those characteristics, how can I afford this kind of printer if I am a beginner on 3D printing world? So if you can't afford money enough to buy a X1 Carbon right now, you have other alternatives from BambuLab that can basically offer the same quality and the same facilities, especially when talking about the time saving. That is the A1. That is a very, very good printer, except for the fact that it's an open printer. You can print only PLA because of the bad temperature and things like that. It's an excellent printer, and they use the same technology they apply on X1 Carbon. Beyond that, you have the P1P, the P1S, that are printers a little bit more robust, but unfortunately are printers that doesn't have the lighter and other features like the moody metal hot end. But there are good printers that can deliver great quality, and they are printers compatible with AMS that can save time managing the filaments and things like that, print multicolor materials. So you have different options with printers that can deliver you the same quality of X1 Carbon, and that can save you time, that can make your business be more profitable and save you time to dedicate to your business itself. So this is all I have to say about the X1 Carbon right now. If you have any questions, please leave on the comments. And remember to give a thumbs up if you like the content of this video, if this content will help you to decide which printer to buy. And I see you on the next video. And don't forget to keep inventing.